Good morning, traders and potential traders. This is Nuke coming at you live with another episode of Day Trading with Nuke. And this is going to be our pre-market watch list for Wednesday, November 28th, 2018. All right. Without further ado, let's jump right on into this. And I've got 5 tickers for you people this morning. You peoples. All right. Caterpillar. I didn't play this at all yesterday, and it's kind of been off of my radar for a while, but I gave it a good look. And what I like about this, from looking at it this morning, and know the volume wasn't crazy, it's just I really like the pattern. It had a very solid up, down, sine wave pattern. And then towards the end of the day, when it broke out of the pattern, it jumped up by about $1.50 and started playing around. And then, nothing significant this morning, but it's good enough to pique my interest. Now, on the 4-hour chart, what we see is this really nice wedge developing here, right? And the key takeaway for this, guys, is we're getting to the end of that wedge. So what I would be looking to expect a drop below the current support or break above the current resistance sometime in the next 3 days or so. So I want to keep my eyes on it because when it happens, I want to be there for it. On top of that, I just really like this action. If you can capitalize on it, it's a real easy pattern to follow. I'm not going to break down and tell you how far I think it could or couldn't go. There's just not enough pre-market action in it to deal with. But we'll see as the day goes out. All right, on to the other 4 that we play a little more often and offer a little more consistent charting on. Apple, following the rest of the tech stocks, has had this giant drop off of the face of the map. And then the last 2 days, it has had a little bottoming action, and then yesterday it had this really nice cover pop. Well, continuing that over from yesterday, looking at these lines we had drawn, it held fairly consistent on a longer-term trend, and all after hours, it's kind of been holding that up. So what I was looking at here, guys, is that, let me see if I can zoom in on this just a little more. There we go, is this pre-market action. It's just holding nice. It really hasn't dropped and tested or broke the pre-market support yet. So expect to see that tested sometime soon. But you got some really good delineation here. And off of the daily chart, I pulled this resistance of 177 and 178.90. So you call it 179, yada, yada, yada. All right. What I'm looking at is the voodoo line was around the 175, and that's where it opened up this morning. If it can hold above this current support line, expect to see it test this 177 before breaking down. And then if it has a clean break, maybe it'll shoot up around the 179-ish area. But if it does break below the support, I expect to see it come down and retest the voodoo. Now, I'm more inclined to say this thing's going to come up a little bit more just because of how much room we have to move between the 50 and the 20. But in the event that it needs to consolidate a little bit and tech stocks just start dropping off today, I don't expect to see it drop much below 174 in the event it just starts falling. That looks like a really good place where it's going to find some resistance here on the 4-hour chart as well. All right, next up, we are going to have BABA. All right, 1 second here. I got to look across at the other screen. All right, so BABA, it's having good volume today. I wasn't following it too much yesterday, and the chart really wasn't the easiest to keep track of. But I like the volume, and I like BABA. BABA hadn't done me too bad. It had this gap up from around the pre-market or post end of the day, 156. It gapped up to around 158.5. That's about a $2.50 gap up, and then it's consolidating here. There's not enough data that I really want to put in some trend lines here. I'd rather stick with what we had going on from yesterday and look at it in terms of a longer-term trend. But what I expect to see is at some point, if this comes out of the gate, has a little pop, and then starts to break down, retesting the voodoo line of around 158.50. If it has the strength to do it and starts moving up, I don't expect to see it go much above 162.5. And then if it did test the support line, around the 158, okay, goody. That still gives you about $4 worth of range. That's a lot of range, folks. on a $150 stock. It's good, it's consistent. But if it breaks down below that, I don't expect to see it drop below the 156. It would be a really good holding point. But if it did, you could see it drop all the way down to 153. Huge range of movement if things tend to fall off the face. I just don't see it happening. On the longer term trend, you see it's been in a downward trend, and then we have this whole area of consolidation here. My concern with this is that as we're basing on the longer term trend, this midterm trend, we are definitely bullish because we have our 9, our 20, and our 50 all lined up in a positive manner, but we are well extended above the 9. So I do expect to see this thing have a little trouble with this, and we'll just have to see, right? All right, next up is going to be NVIDIA. Ooh, all right. NVIDIA has had some really great trend holding from the past few days. So since I already had them drawn out, I just didn't bother to redo it. Guys, I really liked it. When I have the opportunity to stay with trends from a couple of days old, I do. And then looking at this, it had a gap up from yesterday's action by about $1, $1.50. So not huge for something the size of NVIDIA, but not bad either. And NVIDIA, like the others, has been holding this uptrend yesterday and today. And on the longer term time trend, you see how we've had this giant sell-off. You know, it's been downtrending. But a few days ago, NVIDIA had this really nice pop, recovered, closed the gap a little bit, and then it started to pop. What I do like about NVIDIA is we have been extended off of the 9, and we continue to get closer and closer up here to this 50. Does it have a little more room to move? Yeah, absolutely. But also realize it's kind of forming this wedge pattern here. So I expect to see a little more of this out of NVIDIA unless support for it drops off the face of the planet today. Now, what does that mean for us? I'm expecting that we'll see prices somewhere around, about the 161.5, or on the low side around the 153. Now, keep in mind, those are just guesstimates according to the Fibonacci. This thing could actually jump on way up into the 165s. I just don't see it. So expect about a $4 range of movement today. And as long as it can hold the support line, it's going to go up. If it drops below it, I expect to see it retest the voodoo of 156. And then it's got another strong support line here right underneath it. So I am looking for it on the long side. If for some reason it loses support, I expect a nose plant, a really good nose plant. But I just don't see it as being today, guys. I see that more towards the end of the week. All right. Last but not least, my devil darling, AMD. She loves to hate me. I like it dirty. Oh, had an alarm just after 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're getting ready to go. And I'm going to finish this thing off so I can get it out here to you in under 10 minutes. But AMD established a fairly reasonable trend yesterday. And no, I didn't draw this all the way out, but it would have connected nicely right here. So I'm fairly happy with this support line. It did break the resistance line that I drew earlier, which is a good thing. So hopefully we'll see AMD popping to the high side. I don't really care where she goes as long as she's popping, right? All right. But on the longer term time trend, what we've seen is AMD had been climbing, took a steep drop, had a hell of a cover pop, and then a really nasty steep drop again. But then we had this awesome area of consolidation. So what does that mean for us? Well, when we're looking at AMD, is we had this wedge here that was forming, and we broke out of that sometime between yesterday and today. So we might be seeing AMD on the rise to break back above this 200. Now, on the other hand, what if that's not what we're actually seeing? We've got great progress, and you've got this long-term resistance of the 200 EMA on the 4-hour chart and the daily, and we're creeping right up on it, right? And that's going to be around the $22 mark. Well, that might be where the hand of God just slaps this thing down to nothingness. If that's the case, expect it to retest the 21.38. And if it can't hold that and bounce back up, expect to see it at least retest the 21 and then drop off the face of the planet to around 20 and a quarter or so, just depending. But it might have the guts to hold in for a couple more days and just keep petering out here and testing that 200, forming that long-term wedge. You be the judge. I'm no expert, and crystal balls don't work. But if I had to take a wild guess about it, I don't, unless the SPY drops off or something crazy happens, I see a little more consolidation and testing of this 200. Hell, if we get above it and run, let's go for it, man. It's an affordable stock, plenty easy to get a hold of. There's lots of it to trade, good range of motion. It can make you some money. Problem that most people have with AMD is it gets a little finicky to trade. So when her rhythm is off, she can buck you in a heartbeat. But that's my pre-mortem breakdown for you guys. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave me some comments below, and I'll see you all this afternoon with an afternoon recap. It might be a little late because the wife and I are going to be on the road all day, but I'll try and get it out to you as best I can. See ya.